El día de hoy para nosotros es un evento muy importante el que nos acompañe el Dr. Hogan y el equipo de HRTools, que es dirigido por Victoria, en este primero de algunos de los muchos esfuerzos que hemos estado iniciando en la universidad en conjunto sobre el tema del ser. Entonces, en el marco que nos tiene el 45 aniversario y siguiendo esa línea, sabemos que hoy todas las organizaciones tenemos un reto, que ya no es solo tener la mejor tecnología, ya no es solo ser los mejores en procesos, ya no es solo tener todas las certificaciones, sino el reto que hoy nos interesa y nos atiende hoy dentro de las organizaciones es el tema de las personas. Entonces, esta conferencia tiene un tema muy interesante para todos los que estamos en el tema de desarrollo de talento, y para nosotros estar el día de hoy compartiendo esta información con ustedes es de vital importancia. Gracias, quiero agradecer a Victoria y a todo su equipo el que nos acompaña el día de hoy, y pues como reitero nuestro interés de seguir trabajando en conjunto por esta intención de seguir buscando el desarrollo del talento y mejores personas.
Paula. Buenos días a todos, muchas gracias por estar aquí, estamos muy contentos de su presencia. Para nosotros es un honor poder compartir con ustedes lo que regularmente hacemos, que es practicar las herramientas de Hogan, la teoría. Muchos de ustedes nos conocen muy bien, otros menos, y otros tal vez seamos nuevos para ustedes. Quisiera introducir un poco de lo que es la historia del doctor. El doctor Hogan es una autoridad internacional en la evaluación de la personalidad, el liderazgo y la efectividad organizacional. Su trabajo en evaluación de personalidad ha contribuido al desarrollo de la teoría socioanalítica, la cual sostiene que el núcleo de personalidad está basado en adaptaciones evolutivas. Está ampliamente acreditado en la demostración de cómo los factores de personalidad influyen en la efectividad organizacional de gran variedad de áreas, que van desde el clima organizacional, el liderazgo, la selección y el desempeño efectivo de los equipos. Es cofundador de Hogan Assessment Systems desde 1987, es una autoridad internacional en el liderazgo, es expresidente del Departamento de Psicología en la Universidad de Tulsa, exprofesor del Departamento de Psicología en la Universidad Johns Hopkins, autor de más de 300 artículos y publicaciones y un doctorado en la Universidad de California en Berkeley. El Dr. Hogan recibió su doctorado en la Universidad de California en Berkeley, especializándose en evaluación de personalidad. Él fue profesor de la Universidad de McFarland, presidente del Departamento de Psicología en la Universidad de Tulsa por 17 años, y anterior a esto, el doctor fue profesor de Psicología y Relaciones Sociales en la Universidad Johns Hopkins. Es miembro honorario de la Asociación Americana de Psicología, o la APA, y la Sociedad de Psicología Industrial y Organizacional, que es la SAI. De hecho, es una personalidad que ha aportado muchísimo valor con sus investigaciones, y el día de hoy nos quiere compartir un tema que se trata de la toma de decisiones. Aun cuando es muy amplio el campo en el cual se puede, bueno, sus teorías están fundamentadas en sus investigaciones, el día de hoy particularmente vamos a hablar sobre el buen juicio. Entonces, sin más información, muchas gracias por estar aquí nuevamente.
Gracias. Discúlpame, pero no puedo hablar su lengua muy bien. Necesito que yo hable en inglés. Sorry. I'm a nut. I'm obsessed with leadership. Can you hear me? I think about leadership all the time, and this talk is just part of what I've been thinking about leadership. The big problems in life are concerned getting along and getting ahead, attracting friends who will support you when you have problems, and acquiring enough power and resources and control of money that you can take care of your family. So the two big problems in life are getting along and getting ahead. Traditional personality assessment focuses on individual differences in the ability to get along and get ahead. And those are usually about social skill. So traditional personality assessment focuses on interpersonal style, how we deal with other people in an attractive and a positive and a useful way. However, some very highly successful leaders, people in business and politics, there are highly successful people who are not very pleasant. And that's a problem for me, because how can they be so unpleasant and be so successful? This is what I call the Apple paradox, which is, I think, a big problem. So Steve Jobs, Jack Welch, Bill Gates, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford. These are all very nasty men. I mean, not a little bit nasty, really nasty. And how can such nasty people lead such successful companies? You see the point? I mean, just how can that be? They're really, I mean, crazy too. And how can that be? So that's what I mean by the Apple paradox. I want to make the point that a lot of academics make a distinction between leaders and managers. I think that leaders and managers are the same, that the jobs are the same. People who are responsible for other people's performance are leaders. If you're responsible for someone else's performance, you are by definition a leader. So that means teachers are leaders, parents are leaders because they're raising their children, coaches are leaders, committee chairs are leaders, and even some business managers. So the principles of leadership are constant. The tasks of management change. So that's where the difference comes between leaders and managers. The principles of leadership are the same. What managers do depends on where they are in an organizational hierarchy. So the principles of leadership are the same. And here, a key is time those principles of leadership. There are 4 principles of leadership. These are absolutely written in stone. First, leaders have to show integrity, have to act with integrity. Keep your word, honor your commitments, don't play favorites, don't steal, don't lie, don't exploit. So leaders have to act with integrity. So my example here is former President Bill Clinton of the United States. Bill Clinton was having an affair with an intern in the White House. If you're going to cheat on your wife, who will you not betray? So she asked him if he was having an affair, and he said, no, it's not true. She went public and defended him. It turned out it was true. She confronts, this is in her biography, she confronts him and she says, her husband, she says, why did you lie to me? As in, I act with integrity. She said, why did you lie to me? And he said, oh, honey, you know I've always been a liar. No one in the White House was loyal to him. He's a lying politician. He's not a leader. If you lie, you can't be a leader. Full stop. No one, he was just a lying politician who got elected. So first, act with integrity. Second, know what you're talking about. And that would be any successful football coach. My example here of the opposite is all the past and present CEOs of Yahoo, the big IP firm, that none of those people know what they're doing. And that company is going nowhere because no one knows what they're doing. So if you got the job and you don't know what you're talking about, you're just an empty suit. So if you're a boss, you need to know something about the business. Third, make good decisions. So act with integrity, know what you're talking about, make good decisions. And the decisions in business are always the same. They're decisions about projects and they're decisions about people. It's what should we do and who should do it. So, Jorge Bush, let's invade Iraq and put Donald Rumsfeld in charge. And there you go. So, make good decisions about people and projects. And then finally, have a vision for the future. Be able to explain to people why you're doing what you're doing and why it matters. So those are the 4 principles of leadership. Those are absolutely constant. I promise you those are true. Those are based on real data. Those are based on millions of data points. That's not something I just pulled out of my ear this morning. Okay? So those principles are constant forever. Okay, but what do managers do? What managers do depends on where they are in their organization's hierarchy. So and there's talk about 3 levels of hierarchy. So first line managers are responsible for building engagement, getting people involved in the task, and then getting things done. First line managers are the ones who get things done through other people. Okay, so first line managers are responsible. And so social skill is important for first line managers. You have to build engagement and then persuade people to let's go that way. Middle managers are in the stressful position. they have to take crazy ideas from the people at the top and sell them to the people at the bottom who have to implement them. And that's a real challenge. I mean, it really is, because a lot of the ideas really are crazy, self-defeating, stupid, and these people down here say, that's stupid. And you say, and then I've been in that role many times, and what you do is you say, yes, what you're supposed to do is say it's not stupid, and you'll, no. Say, yes, I understand it's stupid, but we're going to have to do it, so let's figure out a way to do it. Middle managers take the ideas from up there and pass them down there, and that depends on social stuff. But top managers set strategy. That's what they do. They're supposed to say, we're going to go this way or this way, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and you're going to do it. So that doesn't require any social skill. Okay? So how first-line managers treat people is crucial. First-line managers need social skill. How middle managers negotiate between the top and the bottom is crucial, and that depends on social skill. Top managers, what's crucial there is that they make good decisions about staffing and strategy. So good decisions are crucial at the top because they are setting them, right? Y'all got it? Yes. Okay. So managers who start a business, managers who buy a business, managers who parachute into the top position may have no social skill because it just, boom, they're there. They didn't have to climb the hierarchy. They just got the game. So and that would be Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. They started their own companies, and away they went. So judgment is about making good decisions. It's not about social skills. So judgment is an entirely new problem for us in the assessment business. Do y'all understand? So historically, we focused on social skill. Now we want to talk about judgment. It's something really different. And good judgment explains the Apple paradox. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, these guys had good judgment. The history of any career, your career, the history of any career, the individual career, the history of any business is a sum of the decisions that have been made. One decision leads to the next, and that's it. I mean, the history of your life is just a story of the decisions you've made on a daily basis. At least half of all the decisions made in business are wrong. At least 50% of business decisions are wrong. You don't have enough time. You don't have enough money. Situations change. Between the time you got the problem and the time you tried to solve the problem, everything has changed. At least 50. I have a very, very smart businessman friend. He's worth $750 million. He built it all on his own. Really smart guy. He says at least 70% of his decisions are wrong. Okay? And for me, probably 90% of my decisions are wrong. So good judgment concerns fixing or not repeating bad judgment. Good judgment is not about getting it right because you cannot get it right. If 50% of all decisions are wrong, that means you're flipping the coin. That means it's a random walk. And the data are clear on this. 50%, at least 50% of all decisions in business are wrong. So good judgment cannot be, in principle, cannot be about getting it right. Good judgment has to do with what you do when you find out you got it wrong. You all? So he said, so decision making is related to personality. That's all driven by personality. So the view, the idea, the theory that people are rational, logical, unbiased, careful, analytical decision makers is just wrong. Nobody makes decisions like that. Real decision making, all decision making, is quick, fast, biased, and usually unconscious. Like you make the decision and then you say, oh, how can I explain it to myself? So we rationalize our decisions after the fact. So we make a decision and then we say, oh, how can I explain that? Why did you do that, Mr. President? So and all of this is related to personality. This is what we call, in the academia, we call this cognitive style. So this is me trying to link up cognitive styles, decision making, with personality. How am I doing? Okay, so far. Okay, I love this. This is from a guy from Oklahoma named Will Rogers. Good judgment comes from experience, which comes from bad judgment. That is, bad judgment causes the experience that allows it. So good judgment comes from experience, and that which comes from bad judgment. Once again, meaning at least 50% of your decisions are wrong. So what do you do then? And our biases, the way we typically make decisions, are systematic. They're biased, but they're predictable. So the kind of mistakes we make are I think, highly predictable. So we're all the same in that we make a lot of bad decisions. We're different in that we make bad decisions for different reasons. Okay? But we're all the same, and we're all making bad decisions all the time. We differ in that for the reasons so all decisions, blah, blah, blah. So the biases, ultimately, the biases are systematic and predictable. So we think about decision making in terms of three big components. The first is called information processing style. The second is the biases that operate before you choose. And the third is how people respond to feedback that they've made a bad decision. Okay, those are the three components. Now the first part, information processing style or learning preferences, I am a lifetime critic, enemy, foe of IQ testing. I really disapprove of IQ testing. But clients insist on having some measure of IQ. So in our this decision judgment report, this first part here is really about IQ. I know a lot about IQ, and this is us bringing in IQ into this business because clients want it. But I don't think it's that important. But there, and the second part and the third part are completely different with us. So here we go. Information processing. Some people prefer to think and like to think, always think in terms of words and images and meaning and illusions and allegories. And Gabriel Marquez. These are journalists, these are writers, these are artists. They like words and images and meanings and intentions, and that's one kind of a style. That's the style of a journalist, a writer, a literary agent. Some people prefer to think in terms of numbers and data and symbols, and those people think like engineers. So you got sort of journalists, artists versus engineers and accountants. And there are individual differences in people's ability to think in terms of images or to think in terms of data. And these give, if you put those together, high and low and high and low, you get these four types. So, I'm sorry. Is that? Nope. There you go. So, if you're high on images and low on numbers, you'll be a qualitative thinker. That's like a humanist. If you're high on data and low on verbal, then you think like an engineer. I have a lot of data on this. It really is the case. It's the classic humanist versus scientist. So the top and the bottom quadrants, that's humanist and scientist. The people up there, that's Victoria. They're good at everything. The people down there. Now, this will be a population of MBAs. So everybody in this square is smart, but just the people up there are super smart. People down here in this low category, those are actually my favorite people. They're very careful. What do I call them? Deliberate. Yeah, they're very careful. They don't make fast decisions. They think it through, and they're very hard to fool. So the guys up here make mistakes about numbers. The guys down here make mistakes about meanings and intentions. Those guys are really good, and these guys are really good. So what you really want are the people on that diagram. Anyway, this is how we think about learning style. If you know who you're dealing with, if you're dealing with an artist, you want to present it in terms of, you want to tell them stories. If you're dealing with an engineer, you want to tell them data, and the other two people can handle both. Okay, so that's just the first part. That's learning style. And those are the definitions of those four types. So this is the first part of our judgment report. It's about learning style. This is then okay. Now they're getting ready to make a decision. Here's it. You have tendencies on this side. I call those pre-decision biases, the kind of biases that operate before they make a decision. And over here, it's reactions. How do they behave once they've learned they've made a mistake? And they will make a mistake at least 50% of the time, right? So. Pre-decision biases and then reactions to, okay. And so the first, and all of this, these biases are all actually related to neurochemistry. They're parts of the brain that are So there's a part of the brain that's on the lookout for problems, for issues. There are people whose decision making is always biased toward minimizing risk. This would be anybody that works in the U.S. CIA. They're just always concerned about, will we make a mistake, will we make a mistake, will we make a mistake? And so it's like they're always driving the car with the foot on the brake. They're just really, really cautious and unwilling to commit. And that's useful. I mean, you know, it's useful to have people who are always worried. It's what lawyers do. You can't do that because it might cause you some problems. You all know about lawyers, right? You can't do that, it might cause you, it'll give you tax problems. It's risk averse. Other people are always looking for payoffs, for how can we make things go faster, how can we make more money, how can we make things, you know. And so it's the accelerator versus the brake, right? And these are two very different kinds of people. You need some people to push, and you need some people, and you need them on the same team. You need the risk-averse person to moderate the reward-seeking person, because either one of them will get you in trouble. You need both. Second, there are people who are typically tactical. How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? How hard will it be to do? These are the people who say, if you pay attention to the details, the big picture will take care of itself. That's just crazy, but that's what people, I'm a retired naval officer. That's what you hear in the military all the time. Pay attention to the details, get the implementation correct, get the blocking and tackling correct, and everything else is fine. The opposite of tactical is strategic. Strategic people, so there are people who are just always tactical. They're just thinking, how much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? What? You know, and then there are other people who say, over there. They're the big picture people who wonder what it all means and where they're all going. And they're the ones who set the agenda and try to. So the first group says, if you pay attention to details, the big picture will take care of itself. The second group says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. That you need to be thinking big picture, where are we trying to do, what are we trying to accomplish, start with the line, start with the end in mind. Begin by thinking where you're trying to go. So you got some people who are always tactical, you got some people who are always strategic. They're very different. They actually don't like each other. It's the same with the risk averse versus the reward seeking. They don't like each other either. And then so do you understand the distinction? So risk averse versus reward seeking, tactical versus strategic, and then finally there are some people who are data driven. They want to base their decisions on data, and so they're slow, they're careful, they're analytical, and they're willing to go back and reevaluate their decisions periodically. In fact, they say you should go back and reevaluate decisions periodically. And in contrast with that, you get people who are quite intuitive. They prefer to make decisions based on intuition, on experience. Fail often, fail early, and fail often. Make a decision and move on. So careful, rational, logical decision making versus quick, rapid, intuitive decision making, and they just don't get along. The first group will take forever. They want to constantly come back and revisit it. The second group, make a decision, make a mistake, gone, forget about it. Let's just move on. You got it? So these are the three. Now there are other biases, but these, it seems to me, are the three big ones that operate, that function to make decisions up front. So this is how people make decisions. And what you get out of this, then, you put these three together, you get 8 kinds of people. And I'm not going to go through the types. I just want to give you a feeling for this. So here's the first kind. This is a person who's reward-seeking, who's strategic, thinking long-term. I want to make money. I want to make out. I want to move things forward. Thinking long-term payoffs, not short-term payoffs. How can I ensure my long-term success? And makes decisions in a very careful, data-based way that they're willing to revisit periodically. So these people are really good at these long-term strategic planning, constant returns over a long period of time. They're not very good at day-to-day implementation issues and quick decisions. They always want more data, and so there are tasks at which they're actually useless. But this is one kind of decision-making style. You all see that? Okay. Another kind is, these are these are tactical. They're concerned about risk. They're trying to avoid problems. They're very tactical. What's the problem in the immediate situation? And they're very data driven. You know what so that you get it. It's CEB. It's crime scene investigators. So they're good with decisions where you have to make fast, quick decisions based on data and then move on. Minimize threats, small wins. Minimizing a threat. Catching the bad guy is relieving a problem. So small wins. Another type. So oriented toward avoiding threats, avoiding problems, thinking long-term, what's the long-term trends here that are going to cause us problems, and being quite data-driven. So this would be a defense analyst. This would be our friend in Moscow. So, and you can see, I mean, that's how we work. That's how he operates. It's kind of a paranoid worldview, but it's a long-term strategic paranoid worldview. And that's very useful mentality to have if you're working in the defense department. But they're not very good at quick, broad. So, and here we have. I think this is the smartest politician in El Mundo. I think she's really. She's a PhD biophysicist. She's a very smart lady. So reward. What are the long-term payoffs for the economy? Payoffs, not avoiding problems like gluten, but how can we make the economy grow faster over the long term? But politicians, if people who are interested in data go into research, they're like me. If people aren't interested, they don't. So politicians are not interested in data, or else they work in universities, right? So they make kind of quick decisions, but always with the goal in mind of maximizing rewards over the long term. But they make fast, boom, boom, because the opportunities come, and you can't let opportunities get away from you. So the opportunistic might be a better way than intuitive. Yeah, in fact, it is a better word. It's a bit opportunistic is better. Okay. And we have here. Yeah, then we have the reward focused, highly tactical. Just play the hand that you have in front of you. Don't think about the next hand. You can just deal with one situation at a time as you go. And then based on what you think the facts are right on the ground. So those are so you see, you take these three: reward seeking versus problem avoiding, strategic versus tactical, and data versus intuition, and you can get these 8 types of decision makers. Each have their strengths and each have their weaknesses. Okay. So that's that. But one more time, 50% of their decisions are going to be wrong. So regardless of the style you adopt, 50% of the time you're going to get it wrong. So how do people react to the news that they've made a mistake? Well, I'm just repeating myself here. Research shows 50% of decisions are wrong, never enough time. In principle, good judgment doesn't mean making the right decision. Good judgment concerns how we handle feedback. So there are 3 fairly well understood ways in which people react to bad news. There's the first, and these are kind of, the first reaction is to blame the messenger. It's to get angry, to yell, to scream, and to say, well, it's to shoot the messenger. It's not I didn't make a mistake. Why are you telling me this? The lawyers didn't do sufficient due diligence. It's somebody's problem out there. Somebody betrayed me. It's not my fault. It's there are conditions and circumstances out there that caused this to happen, and it's not me. So it's projecting blame outwards. This is psychoanalysis, basically. And so I agree. That's a pretty neurotic response, but it's pretty common. It's yelling and screaming. You may have seen that. Sometimes. Okay. A second response is to just say, what problem? We didn't make a problem. There was not a problem. History will show that I was correct. We're just going to move on, stay the course, double down. I'm right anyway, so we're just going to do more of this. So this is to ignore. So the first response is pretty neurotic. This is the narcissistic response. I was right. You'll see in time, history will prove that I was correct. And so you just simply ignore the feedback. And then the third response is really passive aggression. The third response is to pretend you agree, but not really. You're just, okay, yes, I understand. And then wait for them to go away so you can go back to doing what you were doing. So first is yell, scream, and blame people out there. Second is impunity. There's not a problem here. You just don't understand the data. And the third is, yeah, now go away and leave me alone. So this is the passive aggressive response.
Doctor,
Yes, see.
Isn't there another response like accepting stage and learn from it?
That's the other end of all three of these dimensions. It's yelling and screaming versus being calm and listening. I think I say on this. Yeah, here we go. This should be the next slide. Yes. This is exactly the point here. At this side, avoiding mistakes by defending, denying, complying. And the opposite side is, on that end, is staying calm, accepting responsibility for the mistakes, and being engaged in the feedback process. And that dimension, going from this side to that side, is the dimension of coachability, the degree to which people can be coached, the degree to which people will profit from feedback. This is the whole thing about the coaching business. They assume everybody's equal. It's not the case that everyone's equal. Some people cannot be coached. Some people will not learn. And this is the difference between a successful career and an unsuccessful career across the board in every occupational field. Good athletes will listen to feedback. Successful athletes will listen to feedback. There are lots of, I'm a big tennis fan. There's a guy playing today named Ernst Gulbis, who's playing the Erdich, the Czech guy. Gulbis is a terrific talent. He won't listen to feedback. He's uncoachable. Uncoachable athletes just don't do very well. And uncoachable managers just don't do very well. Uncoachable politicians, no matter how much raw natural talent they have, if they can't be coached, they're going to lose. They're going to fail. So you can put these 3 ways or 6 ways of reacting to feedback together, and you get types again. So you got pre-decision bias. There's kind of information people want to receive, data versus words and images, and then there's how do they make decisions, seeking rewards, avoiding problems, and then there's how do they respond to feedback with this, and then here you also get 6 types. So this is Bill Clinton was famous for screaming at people who gave him bad news. He just screamed at them. They talked about his purple rages. So angry, blaming others, arguing the feedback, shooting the messenger, that would be him. He's a classic example of that type. And so here's the model, here are the kind of developmental tips you give. Keep your head, keep your temper until you finish, listen to them, try to, don't get emotional, try not to get personal, stay calm. Appreciate that the people who are giving you the feedback are actually trying to help you, not attack you. And then the second type, which is, this guy Tony Blair, just absolutely will not admit that the Iraq War was a mistake. He won't admit it. He was I was reading an interview with him yesterday in the New York Times. Everything's fine. You were just wrong. In the long term, people will see that I was right. Just does not admit it. There was a guy named Robert McNamara, who's a Berkeley PhD, was the Secretary of Defense during the Johnson administration. He's the guy that brought the U.S. to the Vietnam War. He died saying it was not a problem. The Vietnam War was a good idea. You'll see in time, history will prove that I'm right. And how can you learn from that? How can you possibly learn anything if you take that attitude? So this is the second type where there's just not a problem. You need to wait and see. And then finally, there's these guys. This is Lloyd Blankfein of what's the little bank? It's not working. The investment firm in Wall Street. Here they're getting feedback from Congress about their, and they just no. They're pretending. Oh yes, Senator, I understand. Morgan Stanley, not Morgan Stanley. Goldman Sachs. Yes, but it's just now will you leave me alone and I'll get back to screwing the public. So the coaching industry pays very little attention to individual differences in coachability. There's no payoff. But if you paid attention to this, then you would know how to tailor your coaching progress to. So some people are just more coachable than others. They always do better in life. Coachability is a function of how people respond to the feedback regarding their past behavior. Hogan judgment report evaluates how resistant or how receptive people are going to be to coaching. So coachability predicts a person's capacity to change. Capacity and willingness to change, it seems to me to be hugely important. So as Michael said to Kay, You remember this scene? I'm a big fan of the Godfather movies. He's saying to Kay, he says, "You've got to get out. I'll change. I'll change." He's lying, of course. He's lying. I'll change. I have the capacity to change. I have the strength to change, but he lies. He's just telling her to shut up so he can get on deck and what he's doing. So, finally then, leadership at the top end, at the high end, leadership involves decision making. Which way to go? Should we invade Syria or not? Should we invest in fracking or not? It's big decisions that set your own path. The success of any business, any individual's career, depends on the decisions that people, individuals or business bosses make. Most decisions are wrong and need to be corrected. Yes, yes, yes. All decision making is biased in systematic ways. Everybody has their own particular biases. Good judgment involves being willing to admit that you're making mistakes and that you're biased, and then being able to learn from experience. Often, many people cannot learn from experience. So the knowledge of your understanding your biases can, in principle, improve your decision making, or your boss's decision making, or your politician's decision making. And gracias para su atención.